Hey everyone, welcome into an all-new episode of the American Huddle alongside college football analyst Andy Gresh. I'm Haley Outen. We're happy to have you with us as we preview week 3 of the college football season. And Andy, right off the bat, let's talk about a couple of cancellations that took place this week. UCF and North Carolina, as well as ECU and Virginia Tech canceled due to Hurricane Florence. So obviously our thoughts are with those that are bracing for those storms. But it leads into an interesting situation on Friday night as Memphis prepares to host Georgia State. This will be the first meeting between these two schools, and they were actually supposed to meet last year, but that game got canceled due to the hurricanes last year. So it's been a lot of hurricanes in this conference.
Yeah, Mother Nature has wreaked havoc over the American Athletic Conference the last 2 years, and with the cancellations, now you get Memphis on a Friday night, coming off a tough loss to Navy. I think Georgia State is just what the doctor ordered. You get them at home, you can throw it all over them. I think this is a get-right game for Memphis.
What should Memphis focus on this week?
I think it's obviously cleaning up the mistakes from last week, but trying to get that offensive rhythm back. You know, in week 1, we saw them put up a ton of points. Then they play Navy. Sean Williams has a great week. And the next thing you know, Memphis only puts 21 on the board. So I think for them, it's getting back to those scoring ways and finding a way to reestablish that offense. Because what are they? Are they the week 1 offense or the week 2 offense? We don't know.
Moving on to Saturday's slate of games, starting at noon, Rhode Island heads to UConn, the RHODE Rams.
There you go. That's right.
You're also on the call for that game, so people will get to tune in and listen to your voice.
Well, there you go. There's an added benefit to seeing a 2-0 FCS squad against a UConn team who has got to be thinking, hey, Rhode Island, this is where we can start to get right as well. It's been a tough 2 weeks for Randy Edsall's crew. They're a little cranky out there, so URI is going to walk into a bit of a hornet's nest at the Rent on Saturday.
This is the longest standing rivalry for UConn, but as a former URI player, how significant was this rivalry?
It was way different back in the day before the American came along and before UConn went up, when it was a battle of the old Yankee Conference when I played in it. Look, it's the state-to-state rival. There was always jaw-jacking going on, but it goes to show where UConn has come from as an athletic program. I played games there in a stadium on campus that was really tiny. Now they've got the 40,000-seat Rentschler Field, and they've established a culture out there of they're no longer FCS. They're a part of the American and plan to be for the foreseeable future based on everything that we saw a couple years ago.
Also at noon, Temple heads to Maryland. Andy, this week for Jeff Collins and his squad, how desperate are they for a good showing on the road?
Very, and I think it's tough against the Maryland team who is dealing with their own issues, of course. And we don't know how weather is going to impact that game. Like, it may not be a direct hit from the hurricane, but will it be wet? Will it be rainy? I'll tell you the thing that I worry about for these games along the coast, Haley, are the winds. Because the one thing about football is if you're a football player, you got to deal with heat. You got to find a way to manage that, and you can't get naked out there, so you got to find a way to manage the heat. You can't deal with elevation if it shuts your body down. And wind is the biggest factor in football games. Whenever it starts to kick up, there's nothing you can do about it. So I worry about some of those weather conditions. But for Jeff Collins' crew, they have to play very desperate this week.
Temple looking for its first win of the 2018 season. Let's talk about Tulane. The Green Wave are 1-1 this year. They hit the road for the first time this season on the road at UAB. How crucial is it that the Green Wave do not look past UAB?
Oh, listen, UAB is really good, and we know their story. It's one of those kind of rags to riches deal where people got rid of the program, they brought it back, they're building a stadium, they got facilities now. UAB and Bill Clark have been building it. So for Tulane, they know what they're going to walk into. They know the kind of team they're going to face in UAB. But at the end of the day, they got to go on the road and get a win. And look, this is the kind of team in terms of playing UAB out in Conference USA. This is the kind of team that Tulane needs to beat to put their flag in the ground and let everybody know that they're going to be competitive in the American this year.
USF heads to Chicago this weekend, a 3:30 p.m. kick against Illinois. And the Bulls, they get to play in Soldier Field. Pretty neat experience for those players, and they're looking for their 5th straight Power 6 win. What do you expect to see from USF this weekend?
Well, I mean, USF is going to do what USF does. That defense does travel, but I think we're starting to see with the quarterback and Blake Barnett, that offense start to settle in. And look, we know what Lovie Smith is building up there in Illinois and trying to get that program on track. They've just stepped on their tail year after year after year. But I expect big things from USF this year, and this would be a great P6 win for them. I think they're going to get it because I think the quarterback's rounding into shape, and their defense will be good enough to get it done.
Navy is coming off an important West Division win last weekend against Memphis. This weekend, they host Lehigh. Andy, what can the Mids look to sharpen up here in week 3 as they gear up to hit the road for 2 weeks?
Well, I think it's, first of all, they got to take a breath, right? They went all the way to Hawaii. Then they come back. They win a big game against Memphis. And then it's, oh, okay, we've survived these 2 weeks, and now it's 2 more on the road. And in all honesty, I'd rather get the road games out of the way early. Like, get them done in September. Get as many as you can off of the board. But at the end of the day, for Navy, I think they've got to settle in on a quarterback. We know they've got a couple, and it's, all right, can we pick one and ride it and sort of set our roster? And then again, maybe the coaches will look at it, and if they go from Zach Abey to someone else and keep moving it around, maybe they like the wrinkles that they can throw into the offense by playing these different quarterbacks. It'll be interesting to see how that evolves here over the rest of the month.
SMU heads to Michigan. 0-2 on the season so far. Andy, what is Sonny Dykes' message to his team as they gear up for a tough road game this weekend?
Don't get down early, because if they punch you in the nose and say you get down 14-0, you can't pack it in mentally. He's got to make sure that his crew stays right in between the ears. That's a tough place to go into. It's going to be loud. They're going to be wound up. You know Harbaugh's going to be looking to put a number up on the board. They need to survive that first quarter and make sure they don't pack it in.
Houston at Texas Tech this weekend, a big Texas showdown for Major Applewhite and his team. They're looking for their 3rd straight win here on the season. What is the key going to be for the Cougs this weekend to come up with a back-to-back power win?
They got to score. I mean, they're going to have to score points against Texas Tech, because even though Ed Oliver is a devastator, we got to, we wonder about the rest of the people around him, Haley. And Texas Tech is going to put points on the board. We know that. If they can hold that number down, it makes it easier, obviously, for the Houston offense. But it's got to be a De'Aaron King day. He was great last week. He's got to be great this week.
And for the evening games, Alabama A&M at Cincinnati. The Bearcats looking to go 3-0 to start the season. Luke Fickell's group taking those steps in the right direction. What should the Bearcats focus on this week?
Just winning the game and continuing the momentum. I mean, they've got momentum right now. They played great in week 1. They beat a rival in Miami of Ohio in week 2. And now it's a team on the schedule they don't see very much, but eminently beatable. The momentum, just keep going forward for Luke Fickell's group.
Last but certainly not least, Tulsa hosts Arkansas State. The Golden Hurricane looking to already match their win total from last season. What is the goal for the Golden Hurricane this week?
Well, look, I think, for them, it's clearly win the game, but I think it's for them as well, a lot like Cincinnati. Let's keep the momentum going. As you mentioned, not a great year last year for Philip Montgomery's group. They get early success. Now try to build on it. And I think it's gonna come for Tulsa and Cincinnati this week. I think it's very evident now, Haley. We're gonna have to keep an eye on both of those teams this year and see how they grow within the American.
Andy, who will make the biggest statement in week 3 in your opinion?
You know what? I think Cincinnati. I think they're going to continue that momentum and keep rolling. I think Houston's going to be in the tough one against Texas Tech. I don't know about that whole Maryland situation and the potential rain down there. So I'm going to go with Cincinnati to keep rolling. I think it's the beginning of what Luke Fickell has envisioned building there.
All right, you're on the Bearcats train this season.
That's right. I like them early, but as people who've watched the American Huddle know, I can go off that exit ramp real quick.
It's the flavor of the week, Andy.
A little bit. It's key. Let's keep an eye on, because the first month, that's where people put their flags in the ground. Then we see how many people walk along and want to pull them out.
All right, well, we're looking forward to a great week 3 of the college football season. Remember, you can find highlights and recaps of all the action on theamerican.org, as well as our Facebook page at The American Conf. Looking forward to a great weekend, and we'll see you back here next week.